What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing a video that I was going to do with my friend. We were going to do a live stream and talk about this topic, but it's just been a while and we haven't really been able to find a time, so hopefully he does not mind me making this video on my own as opposed to doing it with him on a live stream. But I just really wanted to talk about this because, and just make this video talking about what happened to Ninjago. Because here where I live, the, 3 new seasons of Ninjago, or the ones that I think are, the most recent, seasons 11, 12, and 13, which are technically, labeled as a different show because they got rid of the subtext Masters of Spinjitzu, and now it's just called Ninjago, so it's technically a new show by Netflix standards, I guess. So, seasons 1 and 2 of the new show, which are technically seasons 11, 12, and 13, and I just gotta say, I'm not impressed with what they've done. I don't think it's very good at all. And it's a far cry from what we got from seasons 1 through 10, which were just, I think, honestly, some of the best, Lego, stuff ever made. Besides, the Lego movie, and, obviously, the Lego movies, Lego Movie through to Lego Movie 2, I think I like all those movies, right? But this is some of the best Lego stuff that I think has ever been, made, the seasons 1 through 10. I remember growing up with that. When I was, 6 or whatever was when the first, pilot came out, and then there was season 2, and I was just all up in that. I was getting all the Lego sets. I was, so hyped about it. And it was just, my show. Season 1 I have so much nostalgia for, and I still think it's pretty good. Last year, I told my friend we should watch Ninjago because seasons 1 through 9 were on Netflix at the time, and then season 10 was added in November. Perfect timing for us to be able to watch it, because for me, season 10 is, the end of the series, right? It's kind of the perfect tip of the hat, capping off the show. So we watched through seasons 1 through 10 of Ninjago Masters of Spinjitzu on Netflix, and my friend was really skeptical. I kept pressing him last year, saying, you gotta watch the show, I'm telling you it's good. And eventually he caved in and watched it, and he loved it. He was shocked by how good it was. And that's because it is legitimately a good story with, intriguing characters that have relatable and, personal stories, as well as very interesting themes, concepts that are being played around inside of it. There are just simple quotes that are so relatable to real life and that anyone can take something away from. In almost every episode, there is some quote that really sticks with you. Even the first episode ends with the first episode of the first season. I still remember this quote. Sensei Wu says to the ninja, even a lesson learned the hard way is a lesson learned. And me personally, I can still take so much away from that now in my current life, It's not something that, just babies can take away from. It is a quote that can stick with you. And, I know a lot of people turned away from the series following the Lego Ninjago movie. I have a certain kind of soft spot for that movie. I really like it. I wouldn't even say it's a guilty pleasure. It has a lot of things that kind of stick with me, and I am perfectly fine accepting it as something that is not related to the show, because it, if you were a fan of the show, the movie is not anything like it. It's not nearly as deep. But as a comedy, I enjoy it, So I didn't have any distaste for the movie like I know a lot of people did. And then following the movie, they continued the series with the same writers in seasons 8, 9, and 10, which I actually believe are the best of the show. They changed the ninjas' designs to look like that of the movie. Didn't really bug me because the stories they wrote there are just so rich and impactful and meaningful, and just the kind of almost like a trilogy of seasons 8, 9, and 10 are just, I think, the best of that show. in general. There are a couple weak points. Season 3 was rushed because they wanted to reintroduce Ninjago after originally it ended with season 2, and they only had 8 episodes to tell the season. Season 3 is the shortest season besides season 10, so they did not have a lot of time, and it shows. It feels rushed. It's kind of one of the weaker stories, but it still has a really emotional ending to it. And then the worst parts of the original run of the show, seasons 1 through 10, are easily the Day of the Departed TV special and season 7, Hands of Time. It just has really weak character development and feels like, because those original writers weren't there was a certain spark missing, and they almost kind of regress the character development that all of the characters went through in the previous seasons. And those are easily kind of the weak points of the show. There are some other ones, like season 2 isn't the greatest one, but it still has some really good moments and episodes in there. And it all feels like, it's building to something. And, like all of the development that the characters go through, it just all culminates in season 10. And it's just, it's crazy how good it is. The music composed by Jay Vincent and Michael Kramer, honestly, is some of the most moving and just powerful music I've heard. Some of the tracks they composed for that series are legitimately, I think, some of the best music I've heard, and it's for a Lego cartoon show. It's crazy, and it shows a surprising amount of maturity. Stuff happens off screen, obviously, but in the later seasons, people are getting murdered. It gets dark. It's honestly I honestly would say it's kind of gets to the level of the mid seasons of the Clone Wars show. Some of the stuff in there that at least is implied. Season 9 has 4 or 5 deaths. A lot of people die, and it gets to a really dark point. And it grows. It's a show that grows up with its audience. People say that about Clone Wars and all these other shows that are part of big franchises, but it's a show that really does mature with its audience, and it treats its audience with respect. And then we get to season 11. Now, I kind of got out of Ninjago. Following, season 10, I used to make videos on those, and I thought season 10 was the end, and I regarded it as the end for years, and I just never had a way to watch it. So then, I'd say last month, the seasons 11, 12, and 13 were added to Canadian Netflix, which meant I could finally watch them. So my friend and I were begrudgingly okay, we're gonna try and watch this, and we're gonna see what it's like, and it was terrible. I was shocked by how terrible it was, and I wouldn't really care if they were almost rebooting it, or creating an entirely new show, which on Netflix it is regarded as a new show. I've seen people being I don't know why they called it a new show, because it's the same show. Make no mistake, it is not the same show. The writing in seasons 11, and I'm gonna even I haven't seen seasons 14 and 15 or whatever. I'm gonna guess the writing quality in there is at the same level as these. We did not watch, I will admit, we did not watch all of them. We didn't watch season 12, and we only watched the beginning of season 11 because we couldn't get through all of it. And we did watch the entirety of season 13 because that's the one that I heard was focused around Cole and was the best of the new seasons. And was the best since season 9 or something. And I guess it was marginally better than what I saw of season 11. But that entire story was so much worse than all of the. It's worse than the season 7, which I think is the worst season of seasons 1 through 10, which I regard as the true Ninjago saga or whatever. It's worse than all of that. It's terrible, and I couldn't believe how terrible it was. Season 11. It just from the beginning, it's trying to be a sequel to the other seasons because they throw in occasional references and stuff to the other seasons, so it's acting like it's in the same continuity, but the characters have regressed so much. It starts out basically the same way season 1 starts. The ninja are being lazy bums playing video games, and Sensei Wu isn't offering any like legitimate advice or any wisdom. He's just being like a dick, basically. He's like kicking them around and beating them up with like an electric chicken or something. Like, I didn't even know what was happening. But it's just like, I couldn't get through it. I couldn't watch past the first 4 episodes. I was like, then they introduce Clutch Powers into the show, and then they're gonna go to this pyramid or something. So then we were like, okay, maybe the plot's gonna actually get moving. But then, like, there's 2 entire episodes dedicated to them escaping from this giant beetle or something in the desert. And I was like, what the frick? Like, Ninjago was always, like, a linear story. You know, I always like shows that are more of a linear story. Like, it's always kind of moving forward. Even the episodes in Season 2, where, you know, the first half of Season 2... that most people regard as, like, the filler episodes of Ninjago, some of the weaker episodes. I agree there's some of the weaker episodes of the original run of the show, but they still have little elements in there that do progress the narrative of the show. Ninjago was always moving forward. There weren't, like, in seasons, there weren't episodes that just kind of meander, like, even Clone Wars, Rebels, and, you know, the Bad Batch, even that, which isn't even over yet. There are certain episodes that feel like they don't do as much for the narrative. Ninjago always had something that was moving forward. Ninjago was always moving, always building out the world. And it's just like, we get they also diminish the episode length. The length of the episodes is now 11 minutes rather than the original 21 minutes. So it's literally, it's 10 minutes shorter. So they've cut the length down to half of the original series, even though they do have around the same amount of time, because rather than having, you know, I think it's usually the 10 episodes that are like 21 minutes long, they have 30 episodes that are 11 minutes long in like a season, or at least in like season 11, which is kind of split into 2 seasons in a way. Like, it's split into 2 parts, but then seasons 12 and 13 are regarded as one season on Netflix, and they're only like 15 episodes long or something, I want to say, and they're like 11 minutes or whatever. So those ones don't have the same amount of time as a normal Ninjago season to tell the story. So the episodes feel like they're not building, like it never feels like anything significant is happening in the episodes. It always feels like, you know, the plot is never like moving. And it's just, the pacing is so off. So, like, I can't really say much about Season 11. I know the general resolution of it is that Zane becomes this emperor or something, and then he gets dethroned, and he turns to the good side by remembering that he was built to protect those who cannot protect themselves, which we already knew from Ninjago. That was his whole arc in the original 3 seasons, was, like, that journey of literal self-discovery that he goes on, and in the end makes, like, the sacrifice to protect his friends. And now, here we are, and it's just repeating the same thing. If it was a new show, then I wouldn't, you know, bash it so much, but it's trying to be a continuation of the original show, which isn't necessary. All the characters' journeys came to a conclusion in Season 10. There's no reason to continue it besides, obviously, money, make more Lego sets for the company. And, you know, these new writers, it feels like they're putting in so little effort. One of the new writers, I believe, is one of the guys who worked on Season 10, but I believe that Season 10 still had some of those original writers as a part of it, or some of the original, you know, production team and all that. So they were kind of able to hold the reins on these guys. But now it's just so, like, it feels like there's so much less maturity to it, and it's not treating its audience with as much respect as it used to. It doesn't feel like there's, like, any significance to what's happening. We watched Season 13, and basically this random person who we've never heard of before, which I mean is fair because in Season 8, when they're invited to the royal palace or whatever, they introduced this royal family of Ninjago that we'd never heard of before. So Ninjago, you know, usually, you know, randomly introduces things, but that's just world building, so I don't necessarily mind that. But what doesn't make sense is that the daughter of this king of this mountain kingdom invites the ninja to her birthday or something, but then they, like, really easily stumble across this mining operation underneath the town, or underneath the city, in the mountain, and they're, like, these goblin people who are, like, enslaved, and Cole discovers this, and then, like, the whole plot just feels so weirdly paced. Like, there's no, like, pacing to it. It's like, Cole goes down and gets kidnapped, and then the ninja go down, and then they get kidnapped. And it's like, so what even was the point of these episodes? The first episode is the ninja are like lying around, and then they go there. The second episode is like kind of introducing you to the world, and then Cole discovers this operation underground. The third episode, the ninja go down to save him, but then they get kidnapped. So what was the point? Like, they're just back to square one. Now they're kidnapped as well. Like, some of these episodes, nothing happens. They just go in circles, and like they're back to square one. Like, no one can do anything, and it feels really strange because the ninja built up so many abilities over those original 10 seasons, and they became like these ultra powerful, like almost like the Avengers, right, of the Ninjago universe, or of the Ninjago world. But then, by the time you get to season 11, they've almost regressed. Like, they're completely incompetent. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get out in the world again, because like the point is like at the beginning, they're like bored because there's no crime to stop. And then they go out in the streets, and then they like fail to stop a bank robbery for some reason, because they're being like incompetent for no reason. Like, I don't mind the concept of the ninja being lazy because they have nothing else to do, and like after the big ultimate final battle, like there's no crime to stop, but that's basically just copying season 1. So you could do something unique with it. Like, they're just so good at what they're doing, like, because at the beginning of season 1 they weren't that skilled yet, but like now that they've unlocked all their true potentials and they've gotten all these abilities, they're just so good at what they're doing that everything's boring. But the thing is, like, when they go out to try and stop crime and do their thing, they're completely incompetent and they can't do it. And it's like, why? This is like complete character regression. It literally feels like a new show. Like, they're starting from square one. Like, all the characters don't act like they're characters. They're like weird. And then even like season 13, like there's like this one like random episode begins with this really emotional flashback to Cole's mother, like, dying in bed of cancer or something, and she's like, Cole, you have to promise me that you'll always stand up to people who are cruel and unjust. And he's like, I promise, or whatever. And people are acting like, oh man, this really gives Cole, like, a reason to do what he does, or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's, like, the most, like, surface-level motivation ever. I'm going to fight bad people because they're bad. Like, we didn't really need to know that much about Cole. Like, we knew, like, who he was. He was, like, a good guy, you know, and then you get hints in, like, the later seasons, like season 8, where, you know, he had something going on with his mother at the time when he joined the ninja. And then, like, even his arc in seasons 8 and 9, where he becomes almost the master of Sensei Wu, like, he makes it his personal mission to find Wu because he almost provided that parental guidance and gave him, like, that family tie that he didn't really have with his family at the time. So he makes that his mission to find Wu, and then ultimately ends up raising Wu and teaching him through the teachings that Wu passed to him. It's this really interesting arc that happens with his character, and it's way more impactful than anything in season 13, which is supposed to be Cole's season. Like, all we learn is he fights bad people because they're bad. And, like, we already knew that. Like, that's the thing, is, like, they're acting like this is, like, a prequel to the entire Ninjago series, this flashback. But we've already seen Cole fight people for, like, 13 seasons before this, or 12 seasons before this. He's already been fighting people that are cruel and unjust. So when he, like, at the end of the series, when he, like, has a flashback to his mother, and he's like, I'm going to stop you, skull villain guy, because I will stand up to people who are cruel and unjust. It's like, it's not like Cole has been sitting under a rock his entire life, like, literally, and not, like, fighting people. Like, he's literally been, for his entire life, standing up to people who are cruel and unjust. So it's like, this isn't even like a character arc. Like, he doesn't have an arc in this season. It's supposed to be Cole's season, and he doesn't even have, like, an arc. Like, nothing happens. They just tell us that he wants to stand up to people who are cruel and unjust. And the flashback is emotional, don't get me wrong. It's easily the best scene in the season. The only scene that really holds any emotional weight whatsoever. But it's just like so like empty. Like I felt nothing while watching it. Like they feel like their audience doesn't pay attention, so when they have a dialogue scene, they feel the need to throw in these goblin characters in the background growling at each other to distract the kids or whatever. Like it feels so much more immature than those original seasons, which treated their audience with respect. Even the early seasons did that. And they had like these really interesting like philosophical discussions or whatever. Like in season 2, Zane has this moment with his father or whatever where he's like, I don't want to lose you again or whatever. And he's like, you won't, Zane, I'll always be with you. Or like just really like sweet stuff that really hits you in the feels, And there's nothing here. Like from the couple episodes I watched of season 11, and we watched the entirety of season 13, which is the one I was told was good and one of the best seasons of the show. And there was nothing there to offer in terms of emotional context. Like, I don't remember even what happened. Like, the ninjas show up, and the villain, like, doesn't want the ninja to be there. Like, he doesn't even explain, like, what he wants with the ninja, or, like, he just wants to kill them or something, and, like, he's, like, he has this mining operation underground or whatever, and he doesn't want the ninja to know about it. But then why did he accept his daughter inviting them to her birthday or something? And when he has such a poorly guarded mining operation, like Cole just randomly walks into this mine and is like, oh shoot, the bad guy's doing bad stuff. And then it turns out the king is the villain guy, and there's this really weird scene where Cole and the princess and Sensei Wu like go, like they get stuck underground and they come back up and they're like, oh, king, there's an evil operation going on underground. And then he just randomly reveals that he's the villain, like, to them for no reason. And he's just like, I am the bad guy. And it's like, there was no point in doing that. Like, the villains in the earlier seasons, like, always kind of had a touch of cleverness to them, right? But this guy was just like, I am the bad guy. And just tells them that he's the bad guy for no reason. And then there's, like, the guards are like, where did they go? And he's like, oh no, they got kidnapped or something. But it's like, and then when they fall down the pit, there's, like, these giant spiders that are eating people and stuff. And I'm like, but if they're eating people, then, like, how is no one noting the fact that multiple guards and other people in the city are disappearing? Would no one question the king for that? Like, this is something the earlier seasons would probably address, because the writing was way more intelligent there. But the writing here is just so, like, lackluster. Like, it doesn't even feel like there's a plot. Like, Cole goes down, gets kidnapped. The ninja go down to save Cole. They get kidnapped. Then they get out. And then they get vanished down into the underground again, but they get vanished to even deeper underground than the deepest underground than before. And then they, like, fight their way back up again, and then they go underground again, and then they fight the king wizard skull guy. And then Cole unlocks the spinjitzu burst or something at this random point, like, for no reason. Like, he just randomly has a flashback to his mom and remembers that he made a promise to fight people that were cruel and unjust, which he's been doing for 11, 12 seasons. And then just randomly is like, oh, I have the power of the spinjitzu burst or some random thing that they just invented in this season. And then he just, like, unlocks it for no reason at this specific time so that he can fight the bad guy. Like, he just has a flashback, and then the flashback motivates him to unlock this special ability for no reason. Like, there's no real reason for him to unlock this ability at this point. He's just like, I have the power, and then, like, the king gets arrested or something. And it's just like, and then they try to invent this love interest for Cole, but she's not interesting at all, and she's like a blank slate, and it's just like, it's like the paper cutout version of what they did with Lloyd and Harumi in seasons 8 and 9, that really interesting character conflict and character development there, and Harumi's arc. It's just like, she's like a hollow shell of anything they had going with that character. She's like nothing. It's just like a pointless character. Cole doesn't need a love interest. Cole was the only one that didn't have a love interest, and I kind of liked that. And then they have to invent this love interest for him, which was really pointless, I felt. I was like, why did you need to do that? There was no reason to do that. It doesn't add anything to his character. Like, there's no development for him. And it's just like, it's just such a predictable season. And it's like I said, the shortened length of the episodes makes it feel like nothing is happening. And then there's like a weird episode where like they becomes like anime or something, and there's like a weird like flashback from these like characters that Cole meets, and then it turns into like an anime, and it's like half the episode is this flashback in like an anime animation style. And I was like, what am I watching? Like, it didn't necessarily look bad. Like, honestly, the anime animation looked better than this new animation company or whatever, because, like, even the early seasons of Ninjago had some pretty detailed stuff, but it was still, like, kind of, lower budget. But then I'd say, like, past season 4, the show started to look really good, and then, like, seasons 8, 9, and 10 were, like, the peak of animation for that show. It looked beautiful. And then this new animation company that's, like, working with them, I think it looks a lot worse. Like, people are saying this is the best Ninjago's ever looked. I think this new animation looks way worse. I think it looks terrible. I think it looks awful, really. Like, it just looks, like, really cheap. And so this anime flashback part, like, I don't know if they have that in the other seasons, but it really caught me off guard, and I thought it was weird. Because, like, I'm not here to watch an anime. I'm here to watch Ninjago. It just felt really strange, right? But it honestly looked better than the animation for the Lego characters. Like, something about it just looked cheaper to me. It didn't look up to the standards or up to the quality of the original 10 seasons. Like, I don't know what to say, man. Like, it's just so lame, and it makes me feel sad. Like, it's just like, okay, you can say, oh, it's not made for you. You're, like, older now, and maybe you're just seeing through, the flaws in the writing, but that's not the case. Last year, like, towards the end of last year, I rewatched seasons 1 through 10 of Ninjago with my friend, and he loved it, and I loved it too, and the writing is really good. So the original seasons 1 through 10, it's a Lego kids animated show, and it has so much maturity within it, and then you move to this, and it feels just like an excuse to keep the brand going, and I guess people like Ninjago. Like, Ninjago kept going as long as it did because of the fans. It almost ended at multiple points, but the fans argued for it to keep going, and then it became a really great show. And it's, I still love it. Seasons 1 through 10, I still love, but these new seasons, like 11, 12, 13, they just feel like an excuse to keep the brand going. These seasons didn't feel like Ninjago. They felt like those other crappy Lego shows that got canceled after a couple of years, like Chima and Nexo Nights. No one liked those as much as Ninjago. Even the animation looks cheaper. It looks cheaper like Chima and Nexo Nights. Like, it just feels like the quality in every regard has declined, like, from those original 10 seasons. And I don't know what happened. Like, the original writers left, the animation company changed, and it just more now than ever feels like a toy commercial. Like, there are literal scenes in season 11 where it's like this long elongated scene of this new vehicle, like, driving through the desert, and it looks like a freaking, like, Lego commercial, like one of those ads you'd see for a Lego set. Like, it feels so much more obvious than it did in those original seasons. Like, Day of the Departed, which is easily the worst piece of material to come out of those original 10 seasons, had, like, the entire opening scene felt like a Lego commercial, like a Lego ad. But other than that, most of the time, like, the vehicles and all this served, like, a purpose in the show. But then season 11 starts off, and now they have this thing called the Land Bounty, and the cool thing about the original Destiny's Bounty was it was a boat, but it could, like, freaking fly. So they weren't, stuck on the ground. Like, it ends up benefiting them extremely. It ends up being to their benefit in later seasons because they can, like, fly up in the air. Like, when the Oni attack Ninjago City, they're able to fly up in the sky, and they're able to avoid the Oni because they're, like, out of the city. But, like, what's the point of the Land Bounty? It's less versatile than the Destiny's Bounty. The Destiny's Bounty could go on water or in the sky. The Land Bounty is literally just like the Destiny's Bounty, but on wheels. It's so much less versatile. What's the point of that? Making money, that's why. Because they want you to buy the Lego set. It just feels so like the Destiny's Bounty was so cool in the original show. Even though it kept getting destroyed and rebuilt, that's kind of a problem with the original seasons, but it had there was always kind of a cool purpose, but like behind the vehicles, right? And besides them just wanting you to buy the Lego set. But now it's like the reason for the vehicles existing just feels like a toy commercial. It doesn't feel like it has, any reason behind it. The writers didn't write in a real reason for why like such and such a vehicle exists. Like the land bounty feels completely pointless. And yeah, it's the spark is gone from the show. It makes me very sad, because like I will always have those original 10 seasons to cherish because I love those. They shaped my childhood. I still love them. I will rewatch them probably, but these new seasons just feel like products. They feel like you're selling a product, and I know that's what the original seasons were, but they were really telling a truly interesting story, and like it's just gone now. Like there's nothing about it that is investing me. And I don't know, you could, maybe it's because I'm getting older, I don't know, but it does feel like the quality of everything is lesser now. Even like the music feels more cliche and less like, like true to Japanese or like Chinese Japanese roots, it just feels like all of it just feels weird. So then when you have those original tracks from Ninjago that come in, it's really like nostalgic and it hits you, but that it just strikes you how like weird like the new I don't know if it's still Jay Vincent and Michael Kramer, but the scores for these seasons feels considerably weaker. They don't have the same spark as those seasons. Even the original seasons always had kind of some root in mythology that made it kind of like cool, but now it feels like they're just like going like off the rails. Like now we gotta have the video game season where the ninja are literally in a video game and it has nothing to do with the roots of what the show is based on. It feels so lazy and uninvesting, and it makes me sad, like what happened to Ninjago? How did it devolve into this? It should have ended after season 10. Changed my mind. Yeah, that's pretty much it on this video. You guys please let me know on what your thoughts are on Ninjago. Do you think the show is still going strong? Do you agree with me that these new seasons are just a reason to keep the brand going and that it should have ended with season 10? Because I just don't see the value in these new seasons. But of course, you guys please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye.